Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Justin Cooke, and we're going to be talking about optimizing for lifestyle versus profits. And I'll let you guess which one he optimizes for. And he uses his intuition to help with that. And we'll be looking at the perils of data-driven decisions, which a lot of entrepreneurs may be doing. So that's an interesting thing there. And he makes deals. That's what his business is. He's a broker. His whole business. He's got a whole team there, and they make win-win-win deals. So we'll look in at how they achieve that, and they have a particular rule they use for that, which is called their no assholes rule. And we'll talk about what happened when he broke that, and also when his intuition failed him. So welcome, Justin.
Thanks, Mikhail. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and Justin's a partner at Empire Flippers. So they buy, sell, invest in online businesses, or they help you do that, or sell your business or get invested in. And he also hosts the Empire Flippers podcast and the Web Equity Show. And he generally is in Southeast Asia, but I think today you don't look like you're in Southeast Asia.
Not Southeast Asia. I'm in Medellin, Colombia. So I'm on the other side of the world till the end of February. And then we're heading back to Asia. We'll be there for a few months.
Excellent. So I'm curious about how you optimize your business for lifestyle versus profits.
Yeah. So, my business partner and I, we've worked in companies and had jobs before. And most of those companies had investors that they answered to. And so there was a kind of a drive towards profit. And when Joe and I started our company, it was a similar thing. We figured, look, we want the business to make money. Not that we're slaves to the business, but that we have to do everything to make the business make money, and more money would be a goal. And early on, and not long after starting, we realized, you know what? It's our business. We don't have to do it that way. We can do it any way we want. So if we want to, move somewhere else for a better lifestyle, or make a little less money and be a little happier with our business, we can do that. We're the bosses. We can do anything we want. And so it was kind of an awakening to that with this business that we've been running. Like, we realized that this is the way we can run our business, and we've made bigger decisions along the way towards that. One of the examples would be, we get told all the time that we should set up an office in the U.S., right, in the U.S. time zone, and having people in Asia or traveling around, we call them location independent, where they can live and work anywhere. We're leaving money on the table. So if we set up an office in the U.S. and, ran them like dogs, and we're in there every single day, hustling up business, we'd make a lot more money. And we were like, that does not sound appealing to us. Like, do you want to go do that, Joe? He didn't want to do it. I don't want to do it. So we've made a decision to make less money, but keep the lifestyle. And it's hard to say which way would have been better, but this feels right. It feels right to me.
So when you say it feels right, is that partly an intuitive decision, or?
I think so. I think that, it feels more balanced to me. Like, I'm happy with my lifestyle, and giving that up would make me a less happy person. And I feel like, even if we made more money, which would make me happy, I'm not opposed to money. I like making it. It may cause other problems in my life. Like, I may just be a little more disgruntled. I may drink more. I may argue or fight with my wife more, which hurts our relationship, which, hurts me personally, right? It makes me less happy. And, that just doesn't seem like a good trade-off to me. And I'm not sure those things would happen, but, I worry that they would. And I don't have that problem now, and I'm not looking for those. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think also for a lot of people, the marginal value of money declines the more you make. Once you're making a good living. And
I think that's true too. Yeah. And we look at some of our competitors that are a little more buttoned up, don't have, a team that works and lives and travels abroad. And relatively or comparatively, we're doing fine. I mean, we've grown every year for the last several years. We've more than doubled or approximately doubled our business. And I couldn't be happier with that. I mean, it's really good. So if we'd have made a little bit more, by having a team and slaving away in an office every day, I don't know. It's not worth it.
Yeah. Well, and also maybe part of your company's branding and personality is the fact that you don't do it that way.
Yeah, you could argue that, I don't know if it's true, but I could probably make the argument that we've done better by us being happier, right? That, that it's affected our brand. People see our business and they go, wow, that seems pretty interesting. Or the people that are buying businesses, they see kind of our lifestyle of traveling around and working anywhere. And they go, wow, I want to do that. I want to buy a business so that I can do that. So there's definitely some upside. I think some upside that I may not even see, or it may be hard to quantify, but is there.
Yeah. So do you think you're optimizing for happiness
it's
and
tough.
profit?
It's just hard to. It's like because it's yeah, because it's not as measurable. It's like it just is.
So I'm curious, do you just go on a happiness feeling, or do you try putting a scale on the happiness? Like, I'm happy from a scale of 0 to 10, and where 0 sucks and 10 is ecstatic.
It depends on the smaller decisions, not so much. You know what I mean? Like that's probably not part of the calculus, but on the larger decisions we do, like we'll weigh like what are the costs of doing this, right? What are the costs of doing this in terms of lifestyle, in terms of happiness, in terms of the business, and is it worth it? And so we ask ourselves that question pretty often: is it worth it to us?
That's a great question.
It's like a reverse of what would it take. It's like, is it worth the cost? Yeah.
And do you take any other considerations into account, like whether it's going to give you more personal growth or some other criteria?
I don't, or at least I haven't put it in those terms. But it was really interesting having you on our show and having you mention that, and like how you really look at it in terms of personal growth. So I think that's something I might try to consider a bit more actually after our conversation. Like how will this help me grow? And I tell you, there are areas of growth that I'd like to get into, and I don't feel, in some ways I feel like I'm not growing. In some ways I am with our business right now and my life, but I think that I could use my business to help me grow personally a bit more if I was intentional about it.
So what would it take to grow yourself a bit more with your business this year?
I think, one of the things we're working on right now is really kind of developing our middle managers and getting them up to speed and kind of like letting go of some of the things that we're doing in our business, and then help coming in, right? So I think making that more of a priority will force me to get better at it in terms of like passing on skills from me to them and them to the new people, and I think probably finding other interesting things to do in the business. So as I back out of things which are scary, right? Sometimes it's you do things in your business, you're like, your business might be scary. So finding other things both in my personal life, but also in the business.
I think doing things that we're afraid of, assuming they're going to be beneficial, not just doing things because they're scary to anyway, but doing it because it's going to give us growth and we're scared of the thing is a good thing to do.
Having you on our show, you talked about how like you use the business as a tool for you to get some personal growth. And I never really thought of it that way. Like I thought of personal growth was kind of a separate issue. So I think I'm going to be a little more intentional about ways that, you know, I can grow both personally and in the business. And one of those ways I think I'd like to grow, you know, we're developing our managers this year. One of our goals is to really kind of pass on most of the day-to-day and week-to-week operations to our managers by the end of the year. And so developing them and helping them develop our team is going to be important. So I think number one, you know, focusing in on that and trying to help them become leaders in our company will be helpful. But also finding other use of my time, which can be scary, right? For me, you know, I'm good at things, or I'm good at certain things. And so I like to do those. And so passing that off to someone else who I might go, oh God, they're not as good, or I would have done it differently, can be a scary thing. So I think helping, like having other things that I can focus on personally and professionally will help that transition a bit better.
Yeah, I mean, I view entrepreneurship as it's not just a way to make money, but it is a way for personal growth. As is probably everything in our lives. You know, a marriage is not just about having a companion and someone you have sex with and love. It's also both of you having the opportunity to grow together as you grow the marriage, you know,
together
ideally.
And individually, right? I think you find out more about yourselves by having someone that close. And
yeah, I mean, we talk about relationships being a mirror. I think a business is a mirror too. If my business is running well, that's a mirror that I'm doing good things inside. If there are issues in certain areas, perhaps that's an indication I've got some stuff to work on.
I used to think, Michaela, that you could separate business from personal life. When I was younger, about a decade ago, and I was working for a company in the US, and I was a manager, like a mid-level manager. And I had a team, and I had like supervisors that worked for me, and I had peers, and I had people that I worked for that mentored me. But I really kind of separated my personal life from my work life, right? So when those two would kind of collide, it was really weird for me. I thought that they were supposed to be separate, and that, you know, like the fraternization should be limited, and like, sure, I'll go to a work function, but then I'll go hang out with my, you know, my real friends and go have, you know, my life. And I don't know why I felt that way. I think maybe because I was younger, and I thought that I needed to keep up that kind of like professional facade, or that professional kind of demeanor. Now that in our company, in our business, we don't have that. And, you know, for all the times you think it's going to cause problems, kind of blending personal and business life, it doesn't really. I mean, there are some problems that come about with it, but it's a lot less than you imagine there might be. So that's interesting. Like, we're friends and friendly with the people that work with us. They're, you know, friends and friendly together. Not to the point where we, you know, kind of miss the grander scheme, but we're way more involved with each other than we would be, than I was previously working for another company.
Well, and, you know, you probably spend a lot of time with your coworkers, so you want to be able to, you know, connect well with them. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be working with other people who I just couldn't stand the sight of.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons we do kind of get-togethers too, is because a lot of times things get heated or stressed, both internally in our company, but also with customers. And so it's if you're not fairly solid with the other people on the team, you know, when you run across those kind of dangerous or stressful situations, there's more tendencies to point the finger or blame someone else, or get frustrated with someone else on the team that you think isn't pulling their weight or whatever. Whereas if you're meeting together and, you know, eating together, and, you know, you've hung out together at some length, you're more understanding. You give a little more leeway to other people on the team. And so I think that helps us get through some of the stressful deals that we have to do.
Yeah, that's a smart thing. Do you actually look at how the team health is? You know, do you evaluate that intuitively or some other way?
Joe and I talk about it, kind of where's the mood, and we get feedback from them. We have bell ringers. So, you know, we have there's one particular guy in the Philippines that works for
Yeah.
our crew in Davao City. And in general, now I'm going to generalize across the board, but in general, Filipinos are less likely to kind of share kind of where they're at in the business, or how, if they think something's going wrong, they're less likely to tell you from like a face saving measure or not wanting to ruin your face. We've got one guy, he's been with us 8 years, and he's happy to kind of raise his hand and go, hey guys, this is getting screwed up, or we're not happy with, how this is going, or I think we can make some changes there. And we find ourselves, sometimes those suggestions or those kind of complaints are like working as intended. I'll put it that way. They're working as intended. But even in those situations, sometimes they're great suggestions. We're like, wow, we hadn't thought of that, or we need to change for the team. But even in the situations where, it's working as intended from our perspective, we have to be very careful to not shut him down. Right. So we're like, oh, that's great. I'll take that, but we'll review that and see what we can do and think about it and make sure we're not missing anything too. So we get feedback from the team. We do think about kind of where they're at in terms of their head and their personal life. We miss it sometimes. Like we had someone leave us last year that was stressed out in a position that wasn't healthy, right? Personally healthy, and left because of that. And that hurt us, right? By us not being in tune with that person, we missed out on them being with us longer and kind of the value they were bringing to the business. So if you're not in tune with that, it can cost you.
Yeah, I mean, I do intuitive exercises where I just visualize the whole team sitting in a circle in chairs and just see, intuitively, is someone missing, or are they distracted, or is there some other weird thing going on? And then if I notice something intuitively, then I check in the physical world and see what's going on. So I'd
imagine sometimes your intuition's like off there, and you're like, okay, well, it was off, but you might catch things that you wouldn't have caught otherwise, right?
Yeah, well, you have to investigate. Just because someone's not paying attention, you don't know if that's work related or maybe they've got a family issue. You got
or
to
feeling down
check
that day,
in a little,
sick or whatever.
Yeah. And that's pretty cool. You mentioned the Philippines. I've worked with people in the Philippines for quite a while. And, they sometimes have family crises and, have difficulty focusing on work. So
the family crisis one, I was gonna say it's a funny one. It's not funny, but one of the funny things about the family crisis is that number one, Philippines families. Yeah, my wife's Filipina, so I'm pretty into the Philippines culture. I lived there for a number of years, and Philippines families are massive. So what we in the West, or in the U.S. in particular, would consider like a core family is like me, my mom, my dad, my brother, but that's our family. Whereas they can have like a third cousin that's part of their family, right? So they're talking about tons of people, and people get sick and injured and have problems happen. So there's that, and then also the family is just so much closer, right? They're just so much closer, and then you have large families living together. And so that's it's weird from the U.S. You're like, oh, God, all these family problems. It almost just seems like, unlikely, but when you understand like the huge families and the closeness they share, you're like, okay, I get it. You still have to balance that with business, but yeah.
Right. So what about the perils of data-driven decisions? Because, a fair number of entrepreneurs think they should make every decision using data. And you don't do that with every decision. I know, I'm sure you use data for some things, but.
For sure. And when we can use data, it's helpful. And one of our goals in business is to get the best data that we can and make sure that we're working with accurate numbers and using the best we can. But one of the problems is, and you hear this a lot, particularly in like industries like SEO or, just with online businesses in general, where they're like, look, you need to collect this data and then wait 6 months and look for something that's statistically significant and then make your decisions based on that. And what I've noticed is that sometimes waiting around to figure out what your churn rate is on your SaaS business, you miss out on opportunities for making, more immediate decisions. So instead of taking the 12 or 18 months required to kind of make those changes. You could have made pivots or changes in the shorter term that would have been, I think, much more valuable to your business. So sometimes you have to make these decisions on intuition or gut. And it's kind of, I don't know. I think everyone likes to say they make data-driven decisions, but a lot of times it's intuitive, but that's not talked about as much, I think.
Mm. Well, that's what I'm hoping to change, partly through this podcast and the books and other things I do, that we're okay openly saying, hey, I've got this intuition. And then, you can use it's just a tool, but I sort of compare intuition now to how spreadsheets were when they first came out in the 1980s, and people wouldn't admit to using them. Whereas now, if you were owning a business.
Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they were kind of newfangled, and
I'm younger than you,
like,
I think, so maybe I didn't see that, but that's shocking to me. So people were shy to say that they were using spreadsheets. It was like a cheat sheet or something, and they didn't want to admit it.
Well, they just didn't know how to use it. When they first came out, not everyone knew how to use them.
For sure.
So, just like today, if you said, oh, I'm going to run my business and we're not even going to use spreadsheets, because they're like weird and cryptic or whatever. I think the same thing we're going to say in a few years about using intuition openly in your business. Like, if someone said that, you'd look at them strange. Like, why would you not use a tool that you can use?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that it works well when the data, you just either the data can't drive you to a decision, like you don't have enough data or you're waiting for it. I think intuition is great, is a great thing to use because you have some data, but not enough. And so using intuition kind of allows you to come to conclusions based on what the data you do have. I also think that, we in our business, we make some decisions that are not profit driven, that are not data driven, that just feel right. That, and feedback from our customers, our team, or just for each other, my business partner and I, we're like, look, we didn't make money on this, or we're not sure how much money we made, but it definitely felt like the right thing to do. And a lot of times that comes from just testing something. So we started a couple years ago, we started this customer retreat, and we would rent out this awesome villa in Phuket, and it turned into multiple villas. We're in like there's a little community of villas that we have, and we bring our customers out, peers, partners, our team, and we get together and we do a mastermind one day, and we do like a beach day another, and we do talks another day, and it's this really awesome get together. It's super fun, and we lose money on it. We charge less than we make per ticket. It's to help defray the costs, and we haven't made money on it once. It's anything from losing a couple thousand to a few thousand, but at the end of it, and the feedback we get from the people that are there, it feels right. It's a good thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we looked at the numbers in terms of like how much business do we make, and did it make sense from the dollars of deals we do with these people? And it's hard. It's really hard to tell. But we know that getting the conversation started and the goodwill that gets passed around because of that, it feels like the right thing to do.
Well, and like you were saying earlier, if there's like a stressful situation with a customer later down the road, if you've met them in person and they've met you, it's more likely to go well.
Yeah, you give people more latitude, right? When you've met in person. There's, the internet thing where, it's easy to be an asshole online. It's just super easy to be an asshole online. People do it to each other all the time with the trolling and everything. But, meeting in person, you wouldn't do that. And so having met in person once or twice or three times or more, you're just, I think, less likely to be that internet asshole.
Right. So speaking of assholes, I know that's one of your criteria for working with people, and probably for hiring as well, that you have a no assholes rule.
Yeah, we have a no asshole rule. And we've got a bunch of kind of like things that we've learned over time that we kind of just use in our business. One of them being the no asshole rule. And this works for customers. It works for partners. It works for employees. But if we get a sense that that person is an asshole, then it's better to not do business. And it doesn't matter the size of the deal, doesn't matter the opportunity. It's likely to end badly one way or the other. And this is a rule that, we bend it and we've broken it before where, we're like, look, this is a really big deal, or, we get a little greedy. We get the dollar signs in our eyes. We're like, oh, we can make a lot of money with this deal. Let's just do it. Let's just do it this time. And inevitably, it generally ends badly. So by the end, we're kicking ourselves going, why did we do it? Okay, hard rule again. We're going to go back to making this not happen. So it's one of those that ebbs and flows. Like we have the rule and then we'll break it and then we realize why we had the rule in the first place.
Do you have an arsehole-ometer at Empire Flippers where you kind of measure the arseholeness of someone?
We don't. But multiple people, it doesn't matter whether it's Joe or I or one of our managers, anyone can make the call that gets that sense. And I think we haven't gotten in much detail about how exactly we make those calls, but over time, it seems like our team tends to make some of the same choices or understand the same reason. Like we're on the same page there. Yeah.
So without naming the name of any of the arseholes involved, can you tell me one of these $1 million deals or whatever size it was where you broke the rule and what occurred?
Yeah, we had a seller that was very demanding, right? And exactly what they wanted with their listing. We're not really willing to follow our process. Wanted to go outside of our process, wanted to change things, wanted things to be different than the way we usually do business. And so we wouldn't normally do it, but it was a large deal that we make quite a bit of money on. We said, look, let's go around this. So, we allow it to go outside of our normal process. We make some changes or adjustments to compensate. And inevitably, once we've done that, we've kind of bowled over to these requests or these changes, and more come along. So we're getting close to doing a deal. Seller's no longer interested, wants to change their mind, assumes we'll just go with it because we've gone with everything they've requested at that point, and starts to really cause problems toward the end of a deal. And it's very valuable to us. It's worth quite a bit of money to us. It's worth quite a bit of money to the buyer that was looking to buy the business, and got us into trouble. So we're actually dealing with that now. So when we make those mistakes, it usually comes around to being not good. And I actually, because you could say that, oh, well, just you only notice it when it turns out bad. No, I've actually looked at it. I've gone back and thought about this for people that where nothing happened. And it happens every once in a while, but it's rare. More often than not, it ends badly.
So you have an intuition, and your team does, and you help train your team's intuition to spot arseholes and politely filter them out. I'm sure you have quite a nice way of saying thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, this just isn't going to work. I really appreciate it, but from where you're coming from, there's just not a good fit here. Yeah.
Okay, so if I ever hear that when I'm selling a business to Empire Flippers, I'll know what it really means.
It's not you, it's us. Yeah, that's you're in trouble. Yeah, no, we do, and we don't want to leave a bad feeling in anyone's mouth. So but we do have a no asshole rule for sure.
Yeah. So when you're getting intuitive messages about someone's arseholeness or anything else, how do you notice that? Do you feel it in your body somewhere, or do you hear words in your head, or do you have weird dreams about that potential client, or?
That's interesting. No, I don't think I feel anything in my body. I may get distracted. I'm just way less interested in what they're saying. So that's a sign, but that could just be a sign that I'm distracted by something external too. So I have to weigh that. But I just can't. I'm struggling to pay attention to them, or I'm paying quite a bit of attention and just kind of disgusted, or what, this is a waste of my time. I want to roll my eyes. That's
Well,
a
that's
sign.
your eyes are part of your body.
Well, but I don't roll my eyes. I guess if I
You
want
don't
to, if I
literally
feel,
roll them.
yeah, if
Oh,
I
you want
feel
to.
the
You've got
need,
like an urge.
yeah, if I'm feeling like, oh my God, that's not great. Yeah.
Interesting. And then do you get messages any other ways?
I don't know. We talked on our show, and you were talking about like kind of you get a pain in your stomach, and that might mean something.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never, no, not that I can think
Yeah.
of. It's
Yeah.
interesting, but no.
Yeah. So when you said earlier that you like to do what feels right for the business, and how you set up these retreats that feel right, but on a data level maybe they don't make sense, and you do other things of that nature. I'm curious, do you ever actually talk to your business as though it was an actual person, and kind of figure out, would the business want this?
No, but I do view the business as a separate entity. Um,
Yeah.
not as a being, but definitely as a thing, right?
Yeah.
So like we do think of it in terms of protecting the business,
Mm.
in terms of, feeding the business, leads, and feeding the business, people, I guess our team eats people. No, but like we do think of it in terms of that, but not as like an actual being I could talk to or anything. But yeah.
So you have a caring attitude towards it, and it takes care of you.
Yep. Yep. And then
So in effect,
we take care of
so
it as well.
mm-hmm,
Yeah. So we're
yeah,
shepherding the business, right?
right. So you could say you have a relationship with your business.
I think so. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Do you have a good
Sometimes it's,
relationship?
yes. Right now it's good. Not always. Not always a good relationship, but right now it's good. The business is not too demanding of
Mm-hmm.
me. That's great.
Yeah. Right.
I'm happy to give. I think I know what to give the business right now, which is helpful when you can give the business what it needs. So that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I think right now I'm pretty happy with our business overall. There are periods, I'd say most recently, probably in the sometime last year, I got bored, and
Mm.
and just the things I was doing in the business were boring to me, and that
Mm.
was, I didn't love that. I kind of
How did the
got out.
business react to you getting bored with it? Because usually in a friendship or a romantic relationship, if you get bored
That's
in
not
it,
great.
it's not it's not great.
That's not great. The business did fine, which was kind of a sign maybe that um, it can be fine without me. Like it can be okay
Mm.
without me constantly having to be, deeply involved in every single thing that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's bigger than me, right? I
Right.
mean, there are other people that are shepherding and taking care of the business and helping the business along that are not me. And so there are other people looking out for it. And that makes, that's a safer feeling where it's not just Joe and I.
Mm-hmm.
If this
Mm-hmm.
fails, like it's going to be because we weren't watching it or because we weren't taking care of it. Well, that's not true. We've got a ton of
Mm.
people involved now.
Yeah, because you've set up a team and systems, so it's grown beyond that. I mean, I sometimes think of a business as like you give birth to a business, like you give birth to a child, and then they grow up and you have to look after them. But there comes a certain point where you don't have to look after them as much.
Well, I like how you talk about, the business looking after you. Right? So
Absolutely.
you're saying like you use the business to make sure that it is, helping you grow and kind of meeting your
Yeah.
personal, your lifestyle goals, right? Which is a really
Right.
interesting way to view it. There's a guy wrote a book. I think it's called Profit First. I don't know if you've read that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but he, in a similar vein, I think, and we're just talking about dollars and cents here and not lifestyle, but he definitely talks about how, the business should be providing you profit. Like that's the
Mm-hmm.
goal. It's not like, oh, I don't have any profit left because I had to pay this bill or that bill. No. The profit is the thing that if you're not getting profit out of it, it's not worth having the business. So think about that first. That should be your priority, and then everything else after that, which is interesting.
Yeah, and I think the idea of that book is you actually put on a spreadsheet or whatever, here's the profit I want, and then you juggle all the other numbers to make that happen instead of
Yeah.
having all other numbers, expenses and whatever come out, and then you're like, oh dear, there's not enough profit left. So
Yeah, and if you take that profit and you call it lifestyle, or you
mm,
call it personal growth, or
hmm
whatever you need to put in there for you, like that's an interesting way of approaching it, because you want the business to deliver X, whatever X is for you personally, right? And for you or your partner, or for your team.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone needs to get things from the business and give things to the business. And that's not just the staff, but it's also the clients and the vendors involved with the business, I believe.
What do you
It's
think
all a,
about the, what is it? It's not the Dilbert effect. There's something else where what's the one where you're promoted beyond your capabilities? You know what I'm
the
talking about,
Peter
right?
principle.
The Peter principle. So
Yeah. Do you
you're
think you
promoted.
have that?
No, but I was wondering about how that applies to entrepreneurs. Like at some point, does that happen? Like if they don't exit the business
Sure.
ever, I mean, you get to the point where you're
Yeah.
kind of beyond something that you're good at or that interests you. And I wonder about that. Like right now, I feel like I'm a little out of my comfort zone in terms of building larger teams, and this is definitely the biggest business we've ever had. So it's a little out of my comfort zone. And I wonder if I'll get to the point where it's just kind of beyond me. I mean, that may happen. We may bring in, I have to bring in like CEOs, CFOs that are not my business partner and I to run a business that's kind of like beyond us. That'd be an interesting place to be.
Well, there was a speaker at DC Austin, and I'm spacing out on his name, but it's a really famous company to do with WordPress. So either WP Curve or WP Engine,
WP
and
Engine, maybe, yeah.
yeah. So they're currently, I think they have 400 employees currently. And at some point in their growth, the founder decided, yeah, this has grown beyond where I'm capable of dealing with it. I need to hire a CEO to take it to the next level, which he did, which was, that's a personal growth moment in itself to admit, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not the person to get this business to where it needs to go.
Yeah, I could see that
So,
happening. I mean, other people exit their business. Other people maybe bring in CEOs, other people to run it. But I guess you might run that risk, right, of building a business that's beyond what you're able to deliver for it anymore. You've grown apart.
yeah,
You and the business have grown apart,
right.
or they've grown beyond.
Exactly. Yes, maybe you need to go to couples counseling.
Well, can't you? I mean, if the business is really there to support you, I mean, you can always cut back, right? I mean, you can always cut
Sure, you could change
back
how
your
the
business. Your
business
business
is.
can't really
Yeah,
grow beyond you unless you allow that. Yeah, that's true.
right.
And
Well,
if it keeps growing beyond you, you can slow growth.
exactly. You can, if you own the business, you can decide what form the business takes. And I think that's an important thing, not just to grow for growth's sake, but what makes sense for the
Yeah.
business, what makes sense for you. So I know we've only got a few minutes left. I'm kind of curious about when your intuition fails you.
Yeah, when my intuition fails me. I've I've worried about this. Like, I think we talked about this earlier, but where I'm making gut decisions or I'm making intuitive decisions, and biases are kicking in, right? So like, biases either I don't know I have, or just it's not clear that it's a bias, or it's a bias, a particular, not a bias, a negative bias, like one that I wouldn't want to be kicking in, right? So I dealt with this like a couple of years ago, where I was like, with the no asshole rule in particular, what if I'm what if I'm excluding people that just have a different viewpoint or are coming at a problem differently than I am? And maybe I just, I don't think that way. And so at first instinct, or at first, hearing about this, I'm like, oh, I'm missing an opportunity. And so I explored that a little bit. I opened myself up to people that thought differently. They came across problems differently. And I think I probably did make both in my personal life and professionally. We probably did get some deals maybe wouldn't have gotten, or I've made friends that I wouldn't have had otherwise. But I think in general, I found that my intuition was right. So I'm not sure that's a good example of intuition failing me. But yeah, I guess I missed some friends and I missed some deals that we could have had otherwise. But all the hassle and assholes and bad friends or people that I avoided made it worth it. So that's not an example of intuition failing me, but it's me testing to see if it has failed, if that makes sense.
That sounds like a good thing to do. So I'm also curious about the deals you make. Are they like win-loss deals? It's a zero-sum game, or is it win-win? Or how are your deals?
Yeah, so our approach to deals is, to make it win-win-win, right? We want the buyer and seller to both get a win, and we want it to be a win for Empire Flippers as well. So that's kind of our approach to doing any deals, and it's really interesting. One of our guys, our sales manager, actually told me the other day. He said, "I got an awkward scenario for you, Justin. What do you think about this?" Because we represent the seller, we're listing the businesses on behalf of the seller and trying to get the business sold for them, right? But we do a lot of like education in the market. We have a podcast, and, a blog, and we do interviews, and we talk a lot about the industry. So a lot of people get to know and like and trust us, like Joe and I, but our team as well. So we'll have buyers, we're representing the seller, but they come to us and they say, "Look, here's the deal. I have, it's a $400,000 business. I want to offer 320. I can actually go up to 360. Right, or 370, but don't tell the seller that, right? Or whatever, like, can you? I'm willing to do that, and that's awkward, right? Because clearly, we're representing the seller, so now we know what your limit is and where you're willing to go. So I was like, "What do you do in those situations, Alex, when you deal with that?" And he's like, "Well, if they specifically say like, don't tell the seller, I won't tell them. If it's implied that they don't want me to tell the seller, I won't tell the seller. But I will try and make sure that deals are done like in both of their ranges to where they're both comfortable." Right. And I was like, yeah, that's a fair approach to it. Right. I mean, on the one hand, you could tell the seller and try to maximize the cash. And, some people would argue that you should. And we are representing the seller, so we do want to get them paid. And honestly, we get paid the larger the deal we do. At the same time, I wouldn't want to violate that trust in any way, right? You know what I mean? Like, particularly if they ask not to tell, I wouldn't tell. But even if it's implied, so we run into these kind of weird scenarios where we're trying to do right for both parties, and we find ourselves as kind of a judge and jury in deals between buyers and sellers. And most of the time, it's trying to make everyone happy, particularly at the end of a deal where people get nervous. We talked before we got on the show or whatever. It's like your primary house, your home, your major purchase for your lifetime, and buying or selling that can be personal. It can be stressful. It can be exhilarating. And buyers and sellers of these businesses go through all of that. I mean, this is their baby, right? They gave birth to this thing, and to sell that off can be stressful. So we help them navigate that. But the fact that we do this all the time, we've done a lot of deals, and I think we're in tune with buyers and sellers on this kind of process. So, our win-win-win comes through. I think understanding both sides of the deal and helping people navigate a stressful time.
So I'm curious, why are you proud to use your business intuition?
Well, I think it helps us make better business decisions. Like, it's better for the business. And I think when we're treating our business better and our business is doing better, it's better for us personally, us being both my business partner and I, but also our team and our customers. I think if we, are able to use intuition to, balance our business, our lives, and our team in a way that's beneficial and helpful and positive, we end up with positive, outcomes for everybody.
And then you have a happier life and make more money for everyone.
That's right. That's the idea.
So as you probably know, I'm on a mission for this What Would It Take revolution to have business intuition be openly used by all entrepreneurs. And I've got a question for you related to that, which is, what would it take to make business intuition more openly used this year?
I think what you were saying before, we were talking about your audience, right? And you said probably more women than men. 30 something, 40 something seems like a good age. And you're getting a sense of that. And I was like, well, maybe intuition is a more feminine word, right? Like, so if you want to get it more widely adopted, use synonyms that are similar. Like, you know, I mentioned gut earlier. You said, oh, that's definitely like a male word, right? Gut. Like, you know, that sound like a gut decisions, right? And I think that particular types of guys will be like, a gut decision sounds better than using their intuition to make decisions. So maybe wording would get it out there more, or at least people more open to it.
Yeah. No, wording's important. It's whether they can own the concept. So
I think there's probably something better than gut and intuition. I know that wouldn't help your domain name, but
that's okay.
You're like, I'm
it's
fine.
No big.
I'll switch.
It's only a domain name, you know. It's not like it's reality. So if people want to find you online, what are the best ways to do that?
You can check us out, empireflippers.com. Check us out on Twitter at empireflippers, and do another podcast called The Web Equity Show. So if people are interested in like the buying and selling, check out season 2 and 3, where we kind of walk everyone through the process.
Fabulous. Well, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today, Justin.
Thanks, Mikhail. I appreciate it.